Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. The vibes, they went away for a short... They took a vacation, I think. It's cold in New York at this time of year. It's been a particularly harsh March. So the vibes, they said, you know what? We gotta just take a little reprieve, but we'll be back. And now they're back. And Jeremy Cohen, how you feeling about things?
Vibes are better. John, I'm really happy that this team isn't playing on the West Coast anymore. At least not until the NBA Finals. Listen, I get it.
Hold
right?
on, wait. Have you haven't made any plans for June, right?
I have not. There's really nothing at all in June that I care about.
Nothing. Making sure.
Yeah, nothing involving a producer of the like zero. Like I could be flexible. I could do whatever.
Could you? Well, no, that's in July. Andrew's wedding is in July.
There's something in June that.
Oh yeah,
happening.
The bachelor party.
Yeah, no. If it,
could you imagine?
Conflicted. Oh, hilarious.
Oh my God! We're off the rails already. Okay, so no plans in June other than a certain something, which we won't talk about right now. But
either way,
vibes
are great. I'm really happy that there's no more West Coast games. I know there are tons of Knicks fans across the world who are up in the wee hours of the morning watching it. I don't know how you guys all do it. I'm exhausted. I'm spent. I'm sure you're exhausted. You're the one who has to get in front of a camera after the games and write newsletters. So kudos to you on that. But yeah, games are going to be not too late anymore. It's great. I'm washed. It's whatever.
So we're going to get to Knicks talk in, I promise. Give me 2-3 minutes. But I have to, of course, my children are up, even though it's late on a Wednesday. And if there was one night of the year I wish they were asleep already, it would be tonight, as I will get to in a moment. So last night in Portland, 10 o'clock start, fantastic win. I forget, did you concur with us at the time? I said at the time, I think it was the top 10 win of the year. Do you concur? Or you?
Yeah. Listen, there's 40 of them, right? 41? I want to undersell it. So there are going to be some not so great wins in there, but
some wins are better than others.
Yeah. I'd say I don't know if it cracks my top 10, but you could make a compelling argument.
It's in the realm. Okay. So that energy carried me through what was a very fun live stream. And then again, I'm needless to say, honored to do, and then writing the newsletter. Today, woke up, I got my 2.5 hours. And
which is what the doctor recommends.
Exactly what the doctor recommends. Yep. Roll out of bed, throw on some clothes. No showering was happening, so I could get to work on time. And today, a little behind inside baseball, behind the scenes for me. So, as for anybody who doesn't know, I still teach as a New York City Department of Education school teacher. I don't know if you know this, Jeremy. You are only supposed to teach 5 periods in a day. 5, if you're keeping track. Because my school knows I don't, they tell me to jump, I say how high. I teach 6 periods on Wednesdays. Today was a Wednesday as we were recording this. And I don't, again, it's against like some kind of contract we have. I don't really care. In the beginning of the day, we get an email that says all of the coverages that different teachers have. My name is on the coverage sheet. I've been teaching Jeremy Cohen. This is my 8th year. Not once in 8 years have I ever had a situation where I was teaching 6 periods in a day and I got a coverage in one of the 2 remaining free periods I had left. Today was that day, the first time, which of course I had no time to like get lunch together or anything. So I'm like, okay, I'll grab lunch during one of my free periods and I'll go home and shower during the other so I don't smell. Now here's the real kicker. Again, my daughter, of course, is awake today of all days. Here's the kicker. I have some law school friends that are moving to Alaska in a few weeks that today, in between when I had to take my daughter to jazz dance practice, and when we're recording this podcast, was their going away thing. Shout out to Kristen and Travis Tendy, by the way. So I couldn't show up being smelly and unshaven and wearing soiled clothing and all of these sorts of things. So had to use my one remaining free period to come home, shower. Food was not a thing that happened today. Rest was not a thing that happened today. But you know what, Jeremy? It's okay. One, because I did have a couple of cocktails for their going away party, and I'm sitting here and I'm imbibing in those vibes. And two, the Knicks finished their West Coast road trip, 2 straight wins. What's better than that?
3, but that's okay. We'll take 2.
They won.
I'm saying 3 straight wins would be better than 2.
3 straight wins.
You asked me what's better than 2.
What's better than 2? Okay, good.
3.
There you go.
It's all right. I know it's been a long day. Don't worry.
It's been a day, but we are here. We have arrived. That is the point.
Yes.
It was a good week, I think, in Knicks land, and we should just recap because it's been a while since we've been on. So this week, since the last time we talked, started with the kind of not out of left field. We probably could have seen this coming. Lost to the Hornets at home, the one home game they had in a stretch of 7 games. And then that was followed by a spirited effort against the Kings, which Jalen Brunson played in the first half. And then the 2 games in LA, and then the game against the the 2 games in LA, and then the game against the Portland Trailblazers. You tell me, like, what was like the thing you will take away the most from these last 5 games since we last spoke?
It's a great question. I'll say it's playing without Jalen Brunson. That's probably my biggest takeaway, because there's a point earlier in the season where Jalen Brunson would be out and it'd feel like hope is harder to find. And now, isn't it that the Knicks actually have a better net rating with him off the floor than with him on, and it's still positive either way? Isn't that an accurate reading?
I don't know if I think he's still they're still better with him on than off, but I will look it up. But keep going.
Fair. Either way, they are learning how to win without him. I thought I'd seen it online. If that's incorrect, please let me know. I think that's really important. You have to find ways to make it work when you can't. They're blessed to have someone like Julius playing every single game thus far this season. As of this point, they didn't have him. And it took that Hornets game for them to really start to feel the pressure of, okay, we can't get bailed out by this person. We have to be a better team. And while that Hornets game was disappointing, I think I even texted it to you where it was like, I felt like since we last spoke, if it's a win, it's totally fine this week. It's not a disaster. It's not terrible. It's just, I would feel a lot better about this week if they had won that game. They didn't, but they had a 9-game winning streak before then. So I think it's really just learning how to win when you're shorthanded. And you see guys like Deuce McBride stepping up in a way that, other times the Knicks haven't had that person be able to fill the next man up role. So, so it's plus 2.5 on, plus 4.1 off.
Oh, see, I have different number. I think Andrew's doing cleaning the glass. I have plus 2.1 on and plus 3.2 off. Either way, better with Jalen off.
Yeah. So, and that's not an indictment as to what Jalen can or can't do. No. It's just a showing of how good this Knicks team actually is, where they can play well with him and they can play well without him. That's important.
I think that's the right takeaway. And for me, and I think this is a little bit because I was writing about it a little bit today for a newsletter for the end of this week. I was looking through some lineup data today, and what struck me was that throughout the course, we've had, my God, there's been a lot of things that have happened this season. And right now, 3 of the Knicks' top 6 most played 5-man lineups are lineups that are debunk. One is a lineup with Jericho Sims. One is a lineup with Cam Reddish. One is a lineup with Evan Fournier. There has been a lot that has transpired since, Evan Fournier was part of the rotation. And even, if you want to say since Cam Reddish was here, there have been a ton of ups and downs, and this team, for as much as you pointed out, Julius Randle has been a consistent force. One of the most consistent forces in all of basketball. It's him and Anthony Edwards, basically. It's just the two of them by themselves in terms of that caliber of player. Other than him, though, I mean, when you look at the ideal starting lineup and how they've only played together 29 games, and when you look at the ideal rotation that we have now, and the fact that, okay, it wasn't until this point that Josh Hart came here, and who was missing time all over the place, left and right. This team really does figure out a way to just kind of get it done. And they've done that in a lot of ways throughout the season. And it almost felt like this week with Brunson out, who I think we both agree is like, I don't even say the best play. What he's the straw that stirs the drink. He's the engine. He's the head of the snake. All of any analogies you want to use. For them to still be able to figure out a way to be successful against a Laker team that has been playing better lately and certainly seems to be taking the end of the season seriously. And then a Portland team, like, it's funny, we were watching and you slide dog there was me watching on playback being like, I don't like it. I don't like what I'm seeing. And you're just sitting back and you're like, I'm not worried. I was worried, Jeremy.
Oh, I know.
Yes, you know, but they took care of business against a team that is still fighting for something, and that, with all due respect to Julius Randle, I think they had the best player on the court in Damian Lillard, and that's like, I think that's at this point 11 games left to go in the regular season. That has to be what you want to see as a fan who is like getting ready to like, okay, can this team do something in the playoffs? I found the last 5 games overall, even though 2-3 record, a loss against the Hornets, the Julius thing, maybe we'll get into later, against the Clippers, I found it to be pretty encouraging.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is it doesn't feel like the Knicks are really ever out of these games.
No.
And that's a really important point. Like, yes, as we were watching the playback game for the Hornets, we could feel it in real time. Things are going poorly when Randall's in the game. Things are going well when Obi's in the game. Go back to Randall. Things go poorly. I'm not saying that's the reason they lose the game, but that is a contributing factor. But they had it. It was right there. The Kings game, they could have given up. I'm sure a lot of people turned it off at halftime. They came back. They tied it. It just the most clutch player in the NBA this season, De'Aaron Fox, did what the most clutch player in the NBA is going to do. The Clippers game, they were hanging around. They're such a weird team. It's so bizarre. But
are you out on them? Sorry, very quick aside.
I wouldn't say I'm out. It's just to me, the West is wide open, right? Like it's the sort of thing where any team could just get hot for a month and a half, 2 months, and that's it. I think it's going to come together for them. I think if they get the right matchup as well, like it depends. Like if they're the 6th seed and they're playing the Grizzlies. Do I think that they have a good chance of shutting down John Morant? I do, but their offense is struggling. Either way, like the Lakers they've been really good. They've been red hot since the trade, even without LeBron James. Yep. That was an important win. The Blazers won. Like, to me, it's not about, certainly there is an element to it of like they were down by 16. They came back. That's an important part, especially when Damian Lillard was incredible and it seemed so really effortless. And yet, to me, it wasn't just like, they came back and they won. It was they came back and they just obliterated them in the third quarter. They had 42 points on 21 shots in that third quarter. And earlier in the third, it was a back and forth where Dame was. I mean, he was not backing down. It wasn't. And it's like the continuation. Like it's funny as we were maybe it was watching the game as they were talking about Boston, right? Or I think this is during the Lakers game. They were talking about Emmanuel Quickly and the Boston game. And they're like, that was last Sunday. I was like, that was last Sunday? Like that could have been 2 years ago. That's how long this week has felt. But, climbing their way back from there, the Miami game, almost blowing it, but still playing. Like there's something about this team. And if we had recorded this before the Blazers game, especially if the Knicks had gone 0-4 to the Lakers, I was expecting us to say, look, like there was a reason why we came out here and said, enjoy this winning streak while it lasts.
Yep.
Because it can get dangerous real quick. And it did, but they've somehow once again found a way to say, yeah, there were some initial struggles, but we took a West Coast trip that seemed very daunting. We ended it on a high note. And it's great for them to be able to do that. And I'm glad that's the last time they'll do that on a West Coast trip for reasons stated earlier. But it's an important element, and the fighting is great.
You just made me think of this as for most of this season, and obviously I know Milwaukee has surged lately, but for most of this season, the clear top two teams in each conference are Denver and Boston. And if what's going on with both of those teams recently has not convinced just people who are fans of the sport, watching the sport, that like the season is a marathon and it doesn't matter who you are or how much talent you have or like who your best player is or this and that, you're like, you get to this point. I mean, in baseball, it's the dog days of August, right? But in the NBA, it's like kind of this like post All-Star, but like you're not quite in the home stretch. And just it feels like teams are starting to wear down. And the fact that the Knicks just kind of continue to battle through, and like, yeah, they got beat 3 times this week, but like the Hornets game, we kind of talked about that. I almost want to put that aside. It was kind of an emotional letdown. But like, who did they get beat by? They got beat by Kawhi Leonard doing the things that like Kawhi, and he needed to do, those sorts of things. And then you brought up De'Aaron Fox, who's been the best clutch player in the league this year. And if it wasn't for De'Aaron Fox hitting some of those shots, including that layup that ended up, I guess, kind of being the difference in the game, maybe they win that Kings game too. Hats off to them. Yeah.
And who else do the Kings have? Sabonis, who just won the Western Conference Player of the Week award in a week that the Knicks played against the Kings.
Yep.
He's great. I'd love to see another series with those two teams. Obviously, the implication would be, or a series between the two teams, be the finals. It'd be fun.
Could you
don't see that happen? Oh, but like, I root for the Kings because, like, the Kings fans get it. We get them. It's very understanding. I'm really happy for them. I hope they do well. They need a little bit more defense to really thrive, but it was still fun. Great to see him, and then still good basketball. Just didn't go the way that we wanted it to.
Would have loved to see Brunson finish off that game. I'll just leave it at that. He was playing good. That's all. Okay. Speaking of Jalen Brunson, we will do. Man, I would love that. Barry, I apologize. I hope this is the last relevant Weiss and Rosenblum personal injury report that we have to do this year, because whether it's against Denver or whether it's against Minnesota, I think I join many Knicks fans in saying, okay, we survived the stretch. Let's get Jalen Brunson back. We'll talk about him in a second. First, reminder, if you think you have a possible personal injury case, call Weiss and Rosenblum today at 212-366-6100. You can also visit them at weissandrosenblum.com for more information. No case is too big or too small. And of course, personal attention to your matter is a priority. You can call them for free. Let them know what you think you might have on your hands. They will talk to you free of charge. And of course, they don't get paid unless you do. One more time, the number is 212-366-6100. Previous results do not guarantee future outcomes. If you think you might have a case, speak with a veteran attorney and not a rookie. I know he's not a rookie, but he might as well be. Deuce McBride, shout out to that guy. He'll come up in a bit, stepping up in place in many ways of Jalen Brunson. Do you think it's a big deal that Brunson gets back in the next few games? Do you have something in your mind? Like, for me, I've always kind of been eyeing the Miami game that is 2 games away. So it would be Wednesday of next week as like, okay, if he missed that game, I'll be concerned because it's there's obvious playoff implications. At this point, I would expect him to be back either the Denver game or the Wolves game. Where are your thoughts on his situation?
So he was hurt for the Kings game and then did not come back. Didn't play in the Clippers game. The Kings game was Thursday night. didn't play in the Lakers game, didn't play in the Blazers game. Thursday to the following Saturday would be 9 days off. I would hope that with 9 days of rest, his foot ailment is better to the point where he can play against Denver. I think for me, it's more if you're not playing against Denver,
then it's a
number one team in the West.
Wrong. Okay.
There's some more cause for concern, but again, like that's not typically how I operate, because at the same time, it's, this could be fine. He could play, but why chance it? Why run the risk if we feel he could be better? The most important thing is the playoffs. The Knicks are very close to making the playoffs. They just need to get there. They need to win games in order to do it. But they're showing they can win without Brunson. There's not a need to rush him back. They know that they were able to pull off a 9-game winning streak with him in the lineup. They can win games with him. That's not so much the concern. The bigger concern is making sure he's healthy for more important games down the stretch.
I'm more curious about like the gray area between those two things, because like I think we know how this organization operates. Like if someone is good to go, they're going to go, right? Do we know that? I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's Grimes, for example, said he didn't feel pain, right? But then he was not cleared to go. So it may not just be, hey, do you feel healthy? It might be, look, let's really try to prioritize this. Let's make sure we're putting this player in the best position to succeed. Not just in the next few games, but throughout the course of the season, the postseason, whatever it is. So, but again, I don't. It's more like, oh wow, okay. If he must be really dealing with it if after 9 days of rest, 8 days of rest, that he can't be back there.
It's strange because like they are, I don't want to say they're secretive with injuries, but like, well, they're not the most forthcoming, certainly when it comes to this stuff. So if he was out against Denver, I guess my ultimate point is like, you could take that in one of two very different ways. The way that you said initially, which is like, oh wow, this has been 9 days and we're still out. But you could theoretically also take it in the way of like, oh well, it's like we have a nice cushion against Miami. We feel good about our chances with Brooklyn. It's Denver. It's the MVP. But I don't think that's how they operate. It's like Denver's been reeling. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just looking way ahead at towards the end of the season, there are some games where if you wanted to rest players, if you wanted to do something, we can get there. But in terms of another injury report, it would be. This should be relevant because suddenly it's incredibly relevant. There are a number of injuries, a number of injuries that we should talk about that actually impact the Knicks without being on the Knicks, specifically those of the Dallas Mavericks. So as of this moment, we're recording Wednesday, March 15th, nighttime. There's about to be a basketball game played with the Dallas Mavericks and the San Antonio Spurs. Kyrie Irving has been ruled out with right foot soreness. Luka Doncic has been ruled out with left thigh strain. And Tim Hardaway Jr. with a left calf contusion. He's out. Christian Wood, right?
I was about to say Wood's on the report. Yeah, but he was on the injury report. We should note.
Correct. It's fascinating because let me ask you, John. Do you think that the Mavs are tanking?
Oh my! You really just said that?
I'm just asking you this. I'm asking you. Do you think that the Mavs are tanking?
No, my brain can't process the thought of a organization that has a genuine, when healthy, MVP candidate who. Well, I mean, what are they? 2 games out of the 6th spot, a game and a half out of whatever they are. They could still obviously make a run at a playoff spot, right? I understand things have not gone well, but the notion that organization would tank, I can't wrap my mind around it.
So I agree with you that it's more that I have seen a lot of. I've perused the Mavericks subreddit. It's kind of fun. Schadenfreude is great. And there are fans who are actively rooting for the tank to keep the pick. Who feel they are. Yes.
That's happening.
It is. It's 100% happening.
We're not
the way
talking
that
about
I
the
see
Blazers here. We're talking about the Dallas Mavericks.
Right. And the way that I see it is for those reasons. Yes, you have Luka. You can get him back when healthy. You're telling me that if you get the Mavs to finish in the 7th or 8th spot, they have 2 opportunities to win a play-in game that gets them into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And we talk about the West being wide open. So why is it that they'd be like, hey, Kyrie, we made this huge trade for you where we gave up an unprotected pick after Luka Doncic's contract's going to expire. Listen, we know we tanked the rest of the season. We'd love to still max you if you're cool with that. Like that, I'm with you. I agree. I don't think that they are going in that direction. I'm sure that there are a lot of Knicks fans who are worried that the pick will not convey this year. The way that I see it, yeah, there's a chance. Sure. I think they're going to be teams that are out tanking the Mavs, even if the Mavs are, for whatever reason, trying to lose games.
You think?
The Spurs tonight they're resting pretty much everyone. So even if the Mavs try, the Spurs are going to try harder. The Jazz, I would imagine, will try harder. The Thunder, who knows? They've been up to some shenanigans the last couple of years. So
one last night, big win against the that we needed against the Brooklyn.
100%. But it's relevant. Suddenly the Knicks are now at risk of not having a pick in this draft. Do I think it's a real threat? I don't. But it's like in The Office when Michael talks about the vasectomy and goes snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. Because a loss is great, but you don't want them to lose too many games. So you want them to maybe win now and then, but you don't want them to win too many games. It's a fun little seesaw that we got going on.
It's an interesting situation. I just want to say right now, again, get your cold takes exposed. I am not worried 0.1%. I'm not worried that the Mavs are going to keep their pick for some of the reasons you just discussed. The notion that with the Kyrie thing and with Luka a year away from his official NBA mandated pre-agency, obviously I'm being facetious, but like, I just can't, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I can't see it. I'm going to be talking head guy for a second. Luka Doncic is a competitor, Jeremy. He's a competitor. He, fire in his belly. He wants to win. But as silly as it sounds, I do think there was some truth to that, and the notion that they're going to go to him and be like, "Listen, we're gonna ease into this because we want, the 9th pick in the draft." I don't see it. But who knows? Who knows? I'll say this. For most of the season, we talked about this months ago, I probably would have signed for pick number 15 or 16 for sure. Now I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm not signing for that anymore. Maybe I'm getting a little greedy.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay. Weekly essay question, courtesy of Andrew Claudio, who he loves giving us homework. With 11 games to go, how comfortable are we with where the Knicks stand in the East playoff picture and their ability to secure a top 6 seed to avoid the play-in? He's putting up the graphic. Oh, there it is in all of its glory. Shout out to Andrew Claudio, who did this. Could have easily not color coordinated this. Easily. But not only did he put the different, there are actually different shades. For anybody who's listening to this, there are different shades of red for like Atlanta versus Miami, and then the color of the lettering, corresponds with like the alternative color. It's
clean.
It's clean is the right word. I don't know how we should do this because like we could say. We could like go through these various schedules in painstaking detail. I kind of did it a little bit earlier today for someone who asked about like, what do you think the Knicks magic number is, right? Like, what do you think how many games do you think the Knicks have to win to secure a top 6 seed? And it's a tough question to answer right now because, just putting it simply, the Miami situation. And just correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, but Miami right now is in a situation where if they win both games against the Knicks, in all likelihood, barring the Hawks finding life, they would secure the tiebreaker against the Knicks because they will, in all likelihood, win the division, and Atlanta would not win the division. And even though they are not in the same division as the Knicks, again, this all sounds ridiculous, because they won their division, they would own the tiebreaker against the Knicks because they would have split the season series. Again, assuming the Knicks lose the 2 remaining games they have against Miami. That is only in that circumstance. For me, where I'm at, I'm like, honestly, it's in a weird way. The rest of the season comes down for me to like win one of the Miami games. If you win one of the Miami games, I feel pretty confident you're getting a top 6 seed. If you somehow lose both of the Miami games, things get more interesting than they probably should get right now, because then you're in a situation where it's like, okay, the Knicks have 11 left in the 2 were against Miami. Like, what do you have to do in those remaining 9 games? Do you have to go 6-3? Do you have to go 7-2? And again, it depends on like what else Miami does in those other games. And then there's the Brooklyn of it all. That's why it's probably a little early for this, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Just win one of the Miami games and you'll feel a lot better. What I find to be really fascinating is that the Cavs play the Nets twice. They play them in consecutive games. So this is really kind of dealer's choice for fans. If you'd rather play Cleveland, then maybe you're rooting for the Nets. If you're worried though about the Nets, if you're worried about the Nets then leapfrogging the Knicks in some capacity, maybe you're rooting for Cleveland. Maybe you're rooting for them to split the series. Totally, I think I'm probably rooting for them to win 1-1, but it's the sort of thing where I think that the top 4 is pretty much locked and loaded. It's just a matter of where those 4 will land. Don't look now, but the Sixers and the Celtics are a game apart from each other. Yeah. So if fans are thinking, well, I don't want any part of the Sixers, let's say some are feeling that way. Suddenly, is it the Celtics? And we're looking at fans may say, I don't want any part of the Celtics. It feels kind of 2012, 2013-esque, where we're like, well, the Knicks were 3 out of 4 against the Heat. It's fine. Yeah. Look, I don't know. Again, it's fans can pick whichever game that they want, whichever team that they like to play the most. I would imagine most would say that they'd want to play the Cavs, but I feel like we're getting to the point where it's shades of 2021, where there was so much of an eagerness to play the Hawks. And there's just a major underestimation of the opponent. This Knicks team is a lot better than the Knicks team that was the 4th seed. It is. But I think we still have to take a step back, respect the opponent, figure it out from there. But hey, Knicks may not even play them. So yeah, I'm not super worried. I mean, just the other thing to consider as of this very moment, in terms of the remaining schedule, strength of schedule, you've got the Cavs with the 26th easiest schedule. I'm sorry, the 26th hardest, which would be the 5th easiest.
Yeah, so very easy schedule.
Miami's the 7th easiest. The Knicks have the 8th easiest. And then the Nets have the 11th. And then the Hawks have the 12th, 13th, 14th, 16th easiest, also known as which would be the 15th hardest. Regardless.
Whatever. 6-1
to me, it's just about staying out of the play-in. I think if you get to 45, you can do it. I just don't. Maybe famous last words. Are the Heat going to go what? They've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games. Are they going to go 8-4? Maybe. But if the Knicks win one of those, it's going to be harder for them to only lose 3 of the ones that they're playing.
I got it on the second screen right now. It's 41-39 Heat over the Grizzlies. Like, I'm going to be watching the Heat closely from here on in. They're the team that I'm kind of most concerned about because, like you, I just want to get in the top 6. That's my priority right now. I will say this, and it's not a conversation that I'm prepared to have right now, but there is an interesting discussion, for me at least, to be had about how do I put this? About the narrative that will take place coming out of whatever transpires in the playoffs. Now, it should go without saying that the best possible narrative for the Knicks is to win a playoff series, I think. right? I don't think there's any argument against that. But that being said, if you are a Knicks fan who perhaps has some PTSD from many years of insert bad memories here, and you're like, I just want to make sure that the vibes are still good after this season. We've done so much. We've come so far. We've accomplished so much. Could we just please go into the summer with like, okay, people are feeling good about the Knicks. People are like, there's positive things being said about the Knicks. Like, what a good season the Knicks had. If that is your mindset, then there is certainly a world where you're like, you know what? Maybe I do want the Philadelphia 76ers, because guess what? If we win, it's the greatest story in the world. And if we lose, it's like, oh, we lost to Joel Embiid and James Harden, and it's not the end of the world. Or even to a slightly lesser extent, the Boston Celtics, who I know have not been playing well for a while, but they are still, the defending Eastern Conference champions and the whole thing. So I'm not prepared to have that conversation right now. Maybe we won't have the opportunity to have it, but I at least just want to bring it up. That's all.
Well, the challenging thing for me is like, if the Knicks fell to 6th, or hell, let's say they somehow found a way to fall to 7th and they win their play-in game and there's the 7th seed. In my messed up mind, it's like, oh, good. That means that they avoid the Bucks until the Eastern Conference Finals. And it's like, no. There's that's not what? No. Like, so
that's not crazy though.
I mean, it's 1,000% crazy, but it's fandom. I'll take it,
No, but hold on. Wait, I want to push back on that. Why is it crazy? And again, I know I'm just a guy who was like talking about, well, what's the better narrative coming off a loss? But at the same time, we should at least, they deserve to have it acknowledged that for 3+ months, top 4 net rating, fifth in wins or whatever in the whole damn league. I think this is a really good team.
Sure.
We should be thinking that.
Yes. I mean, the Celtics have still been playing 600 ball for the last 3 months since their absurdly hot start, which is still very good, but it's worse. There's something to be said of the Sixers, where pretty much every single postseason Embiid does not look like the MVP caliber player that he may have been earlier in the season, or the elite all-star if he's not an MVP caliber. Like, there's a bit of a descent in terms of how his play might be. And they still have James Harden. They're still a very good team. Yeah, the Bucks just terrify me. The other teams scare the crap out of me, the 2-3, and the Cavs worry me for sure. But
they should.
I think if we're going off of the whole vibes factor here, I mean, listen, I am not expecting the Knicks to win a playoff series. I'm not saying they can't do it by any stretch. It's just, if they're not a top 4 seed, they're not going to be favored to win, and that's fair. There's something to be said, though, of, okay, yeah, the Knicks made the playoffs, looked sustainable, and on top of that, it comes down to, where's their pick going to be? Because the pick is an extension to the future. It is some sort of reward for either your own season or another team's season. In this case,
the Mavs pick. Yeah,
it's the Mavs pick. And I think that's what will really help Knicks fans from that vibe perspective of anything goes. It's all gravy by this point. We want to win, believe we can win, know that the other team is the favorites. No matter what, the Knicks would have the Mavs pick, assuming it conveys, hopefully if it conveys, it will be in the tweens or the teens. It's just a matter of, hey, it'd be really great if it were closer to 11 than it would be to 20.
I don't know when the proper time is to put out this poll, but I kind of want to put out a poll on Twitter asking you as a Knicks fan, would you sign right now for a 7-game first-round playoff defeat? I would imagine about 70% of the people, 75% of the people will probably say no, they would not. But I'd just be curious, because that would mean that you took 3 games off of the Sixers, Celtics, or Cavs, who, by the way, last I checked, were neck and neck for the best net rating in the whole league for the whole season. So
I would sign up for it 100%.
You would? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think most people would.
That's fair, but I think the other thing to consider is this is a young team, and most of the players on the team may not have the experience that's necessary of a grueling series, right? Like the Hawks series. You got Quickly getting experience. You got Toppin. You got RJ, Randall. Those are the first, right? I mean, Randall hadn't made the playoffs before that. He didn't make it the Lakers, didn't make it the Pelicans. So they got a taste of it and they lost the first game, heartbreaker, won the second, and then proceeded to lose the next three. The objective, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, the objective to me of this upcoming playoff season for the Knicks is not necessarily to go as far as you can. That's great. That's important. It is to build the foundation and to keep going from there, right? Like we saw that with the Warriors and the Suns when they played very, very recently. What was it? Yeah, last night, 2 nights ago, where Steph Curry said to Chris Paul, this isn't 2014 anymore. And you go back, what happened in 2014? The Clippers beat the Warriors. The Warriors won the NBA championship the next year. Am I insinuating that the Knicks losing to a team means that they're going to win the championship in the following year? Of course I am. That's going to happen. But no, jokes aside, it's the sort of thing where it's like, you need to keep building. You need to keep building that level of experience. And as agonizing as a 7-game defeat will feel in the moment,
that's especially,
but like in the moment, in
the moment. Yeah.
Time heals most wounds. I guess all wounds. Yeah. I mean,
Charles Smith.
That's the one that I had in mind where it's like, I was not alive for it, but I could imagine that for those who were and witnessed it, that one does not heal quite well.
Yeah. We'll have more of these sorts of discussions moving forward. Let's get to game ball, which I believe, as we've changed the rules, I get the honor of handing out first this week.
This has always been the case. Most this is for the whole season's been the case.
I know. I just like to listen. I need to revel in my victories.
Right. Yes. You're not humble about it. That's fine.
No, there's no humility anywhere near my range. Here. Game ball candidates. Okay, here are the list. Here is the list. Josh Hart, Deuce McBride, Isaiah Hartenstein, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and a surprise entrant, Walt Perrin. I like it. This is a really tough one. This feels like a really good week to reward someone that perhaps has not been rewarded before. With all due respect to Josh Hart, I'm not going to be picking him. I feel like we've praised Josh Hart an awful lot over the weeks, really months since he's been acquired. It's all been deserved. He could be a game ball recipient any of the weeks he's been here. For me, this comes down to Deuce and Hartenstein for different reasons. Deuce, I think, flatly was the best player in the Knicks' 2 wins since we last spoke. He was certainly the best player against Portland, and I think there's a good argument that he was the best player against the Lakers. The reason I am considering Hartenstein is since the Josh Hart trade, Isaiah Hartenstein is the best plus minus in the NBA. Total plus minus. Number 1. Which is when you say it out loud about a player who almost every Knicks fan, if not every Knicks fan, wanted to run the hell right out of town for the better part of 3 months this season. It's really wild to say that. And I feel like, this would be as good a time as any to give him his due. That said, I got to go to Deuce. And with a tip of the cap to Walt Perrin, because he is not only a guy who showed up big when the team needed it and performed at a high level, but he is, and I think I wrote this for today's newsletter, how do you not love rooting for this guy? He's just such an easy guy to root for, and he's easy to love and get behind as a Knicks fan, and especially if you've been a Knicks fan for a long time and you remember, those old teams. So Deuce McBride, congratulations, man. You got my game ball.
If you hadn't picked Deuce, I would have. Okay. You didn't pick Hartenstein. I will be picking Hartenstein.
There you go.
You laid it out. It's funny to think that someone could lay goose eggs in consecutive games from a point standpoint and still be rewarded with a game ball, but here we are. The impact he's had has been phenomenal. He is a high quality backup center, and he's closing games, and I think that's important I know there's some mild controversy in that. Shouldn't be. It should be exactly the same way that the Knicks have been operating with their closing 5. It's Randall and Brunson and whoever else deserves it. I mean, it's the other thing to consider. He dealt with an Achilles injury to start the year, was not healthy. Finally getting his legs underneath him. And John, he has played in 71 of 71 games.
Thank you for mentioning that. I forgot that. Yep.
That's really important. And he's found his role. And that's the funny thing too. Like, he's not even at his best offensively. Like, he did so well last year. We can talk about the playmaking, which is still an important piece of his game that's not even really being drawn out much. But with that though, you cut down on the turnovers, which is great. He has struggled around the rim. That has kind of cratered a lot of his efficiency. Doesn't even matter. He's still doing exactly what the Knicks want in a 5. He's rebounding the ball on offense. He's protecting the rim. And he's even taking floaters, which is great. That's something that's really important there.
But we're seeing some of the stuff from last year, aren't we? More recently than we have for most of the year, which I think is cool.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a great pick. Good signing. Pretty good summer for Mr. Leon Rose, I guess. Wouldn't you say? Okay. Which leads us to detention. Leon Rose is not going to be put in detention. Here are our candidates. And again, for everybody to know, I am a puppet. I read the words that are on the page that Andrew Claudio types out. That's all I'm doing. Here are our detention candidates. Mitchell Robinson, grow up. Those are not my words. Andrew Claudio's. It's at Andrew. Is it Andrew at Andrew J. Claudio? Is it at Andrew?
There's an underscore in the back.
There's an underscore. Okay, great.
In the end, yeah.
It's just at him. He loves hearing everybody's thoughts on Twitter. Julius Randle, a candidate mostly due to the Clipper game performance. RJ Barrett, a candidate mostly due to the Sacramento game performance. Emmanuel Quickly, a candidate mostly due to the Charlotte and Sacramento performances. I can't even read that without laughing. And Nick Wright did not have either Brunson or Randall on his public All-NBA teams. And then, one more. NBA schedule makers, no more West Coast Knicks games, period. Jeremy, the floor is yours.
If we're talking about this week, I thought Quick did a really nice job of salvaging what was an ugly week. I'm going to go with Mitch. Not even for the grow up standpoint. Like, listen, it seems that every few months there's some social media outlet frustration from him. If this is like the most frustrating thing that Knicks fans have to deal with behind like the Cam Reddish situation, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being mild, like extremely mild, and 10 being this is a really awful PR nightmare, this is probably a 2. This might even be a 1.5. This whole season and this included. So I don't really care. What I care more about is he's not doing, at least this past week, especially in the latter 2 games, he wasn't doing what was necessary to stay on the court to close games. And it's fine because the Knicks have a great backup in Hartenstein, as we just talked about. But it's that sort of thing where he has it. There's a reason he's being used in the way he's being used. It's because he's very good at offensive rebounding. He's very good at boxing out. He's very good at finishing at the rim. His defense is phenomenal. It was an off week. And the funny part of it too is like he still had 14 rebounds.
He had the big game against the Clippers, right? Yeah.
So he had a role. And that's why it's tough, because I feel like all the players Andrew named had moments that were ugly. I feel like those players all salvaged the week in a way that Mitch did not get to do. So that's why I've got him in my detention.
I think it's a great call. I have a funny feeling Mitch may have been having a little fun with all of us with his comments or whatever on Instagram, and I'll just leave it at that. We'll see what transpires. I don't really want to put Randall, Barrett, or Quickly in detention, and the NBA schedule makers, I'm sure, try very hard at their job. So I'll just go ahead and pick Nick Wright. I will say that by net rating and by record, there are a clear top 7 teams in the NBA this year. 8 teams, excuse me. The top 5 teams in the East and the top 3 teams in the West. My daughter's very excited to hear my detention pick. Boston, Philly, Milwaukee, Cleveland, they're all getting all NBA players. Denver's getting an all NBA player. Sacramento, I'd be shocked if Sabonis isn't on, and I think Fox has a chance. Memphis is the only one, and that's only because of the job situation, which we're not going to talk about right now, but like Ja was headed clearly towards an all NBA spot. The Knicks are what? Maybe he still is. I know
you said not talk about it. I'm just saying there are 39 million reasons why we might want to talk about it. Just based on the fact that him being suspended for a longer period of time might rub voters the wrong way. And then
I understand that.
Right. I'm just saying that. Yes. Anyways.
The point is, all of those teams either are going to have all NBA guys or like clearly would have had it not been for things. So yeah, damn right. I think the Knicks deserve an all NBA player, whether it be Jalen Brunson or Julius Randle. So Nick Wright, again, I'm not really sure who he is, but he's in my detention for the week.
To be fair, I guess not even to be fair towards Nick Wright. It's more that he made a bold claim about the Knicks beforehand, and it's kind of just doubling down in terms of what he's doing. So I don't really care. I don't care about him.
Good for him. Content. Yeah. Okay. Predictions. This is going to be a bit of a muted prediction segment because 1, there's only 2 games, and 2, one of them is already passed.
And 3, we already know what the other person has picked because we talked about it off air. So we would have it in our back pockets.
Because there's integrity, Jeremy, going to the predictions. So it's at Portland and then versus Denver. We picked this before the Portland game. I took 1-1 and Jeremy took 2-0. So in short, if the Knicks beat Denver, Jeremy wins, and then Jeremy wins the week. And if they beat Portland, then I win. Jeremy's up by 2. So Jeremy, if the Knicks beat the Nuggets on Saturday afternoon, it's an afternoon game, there are, make sure I get this right here,
3 weeks.
There are 3 weeks left. So I would need to go 3-0 to tie.
Yes.
I don't really like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. But I have to win the game. I need the Knicks to beat the Nuggets. The Nuggets, who as of this moment are 16-17 on the road, who have lost 4 straight.
4 straight as of right now. Yep.
So we'll see. We shall see.
I'll be rooting for you to win the week because I feel like if the Knicks beat I know the Nuggets have been reeling. If the Knicks beat the Nuggets, I will feel very good about their chances to finish the season strongly. So I hope you win. I will leave it at that. And that is it. Anything else we forgot, Jeremy Cohen, before we go?
I think that is all, John. I think we got everything covered.
Great. Thank you, everybody. As always, we appreciate you listening. Yes, one thing.
No, there is an important thing.
What is the important thing? We
didn't talk about how awesome Saturday went.
Yes.
We had like 40 to 50 people show up. All had a great time, even despite the outcome. Honestly, it was like the best feeling after a loss that I had all season because of the fact that it was just so much fun to be there. So it was great. Awesome success. We want to do it again. We want to do it come playoff time. We'll find a time, hopefully, assuming the schedule works out in that way. But thank you for all who showed up. Thank you for all who had the intention of showing up and something got in the way. We hope to see you at the next one. And just was great. Awesome.
We're going to try to do more of these sorts of things because it's fun and it's cool to get together with people who love the Knicks and follow us and the whole thing. So yeah, thanks to everybody who came out to Penn 6 on Saturday. And of course, thank you if you didn't come out, but you're a fan of the show. Don't forget, you can help support us. Leave a 5-star review, leave a rating. Of course, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all of that stuff. We will be back with our regularly scheduled program. So we'll be recording just, in about half a week. Hopefully talking about Jeremy and his inevitable march to victory in the predictions game this season. It would be really cool if they beat Denver. But either way, good times right now in Knicks land. Enjoy it, as we always say. Enjoy the good times because you never know how long they're going to last. And we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.